Assalamualaikum. Assalamu Rafe, how are you? Hold on, let me tell the other people that we are just starting out. Okay, so that's done. So आज का हमारा मकसद जो है ना, the purpose of today's session is to understand and practice moles के questions. ठीक है, that is the most important thing today. मोल्स इतना मुश्किल या इतना बड़ा टॉपिक है नहीं जितना उससे खौफ आता है बच्चों को. Okay, and I totally understand why that would be. That is because moles questions are very detailed, there's a lot of numbers in there, and we can get overwhelmed with so much data that there is. तो उसको करने का या उसको सॉल्व करने का द सिंपलेस्ट मेथड इज टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट यू आर लुकिंग फॉर. बिफोर यू अटेम्प्ट अ क्वेश्चन यू शुड नो कि व्हाट एम आई लुकिंग फॉर, और उसके यू हैव दी सिंपल hints in any question, and you have to have a pattern. Before you solve that, you have to have a pattern in mind कि अच्छा क्वेश्चन किस तरह से आएगा और मेरी स्ट्रैटेजी क्या होगी उसको सॉल्व करने के लिए. बिकॉज इफ यू हैव दैट स्ट्रैटेजी राइट, then of course you will get it right. I'm sorry, I will have to check about physics channel. I will surely send that to you in the group. Okay, of course there are many physics channels online because physics is the most heavily funded of the sciences, I would say. So yeah, there's plenty of material for that. So let me just clarify what the primary goal for moles would be for examiner. अब उसमें हमारे पास सबसे पहली चीज़ आती है कि मोल्स है क्या, डेफिनेशन. सो जस्ट रिमेंबर दैट मोल्स इज़ अ वे ऑफ मेजरिंग थिंग्स. जैसे मास मेजर करते हैं एंड वी यूज़ केजीज फॉर दैट और ग्राम्स फॉर दैट, और वी मेजर वॉल्यूम एंड वी यूज़ CM क्यूब और DM क्यूब फॉर दैट. दैट्स जस्ट वन मेजरमेंट दैट वी आर डूइंग एंड सम यूनिट्स दैट वी आर डूइंग फॉर दैट. नाउ द गुड थिंग अबाउट मोस्ट मेजरमेंट्स इज कि आप उसके लिए कोई ना कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंट यूज़ कर सकते हो. वॉल्यूम मेजर करना है, यू कैन मेजर यूजिंग गैस सिरिंज, यू कैन मेजर यूजिंग ब्यूरेट, पिपेट, measuring cylinder, beaker, depending on what your purpose is, how much solution or gas you're working with. आपने mass measure करना है, you can have a balance and you can measure that. आपने pH measure करनी है, you can use litmus paper, sorry, not litmus paper, you can use universal indicator, pH paper or pH meter, and you can just dip that in, figure out the pH using matching with the chart. So pH measure करने का भी आपके पास तरीका होता है. Moles is different. Moles measure नहीं कर सकते आप, moles calculate करते हैं हमेशा. And that is why moles is different from any other calculation that you do. Assalamu alaikum Hassan. Moles measure नहीं हो सकता, moles हमेशा calculate होता है. So that means you need to know how to calculate. अब calculate करने के लिए we have a very simple method which works every single time. We define mole. हम कहते हैं एक मोल किसके बराबर है, and once you know that, उसके बाद आप conversion कर सकते हो. Okay? Rafi, the test for water is you take water and copper 2 sulfate, which is anhydrous, it will convert from white to blue, and cobalt chloride would go from blue to pink. So those are the tests for water. But अगर किसी चीज़ में water के अलावा कुछ है तो अब हमें नहीं पता चलेगा, because the color change will still be there because पानी है. impure solution हो या pure water हो, दोनों में ये test positive ही होता है. अच्छा, so we were talking about converting moles. So moles के लिए हमारे पास जो की है ना, हमेशा एक ही की होगी कि 1 mole of anything, doesn't matter what you're talking about, anything that you have, 1 mole of that thing is going to be equal to 6.02 into 10 power 23 particles. That's what it is. 6.02 into 23 into 10 power 23 particles. बहुत बड़ा नंबर है. 6 के बाद तकरीबन 23 digits हैं, तब जाके ये एक नंबर बनता है. It's a very small वैल्यू इफ़ यू थिंक इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि मतलब ये हैंड सैनिटाइज़र की बॉटल है ना, तो इसमें राइट नाउ इट इज़ 500 ml. सो 500 ml के अंदर दिस इज़ मोर पार्टिकल्स दैन देर इज़ पॉपुलेशन ऑन अर्थ. इन फैक्ट देर इज़ प्रॉब्ली मोर पॉपुलेशन दैन देर एवर हैज़ बीन ऑन अर्थ. जितने दुनिया में आज तक इंसान है उनसे ज़्यादा पार्टिकल इसके अंदर मौजूद हैं. एंड द रीज़न इज़ कि नंबर छोटा नहीं है, नंबर इज़ रियली बिग, बट पार्टिकल्स बहुत छोटे हैं, दे आर रियली स्मॉल, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट इवन सच अ बिग नंबर pales in comparison to how many particles we have. So we have this unit. Assalamu alaikum Wahab. सो 1 मोल दिस मैनी पार्टिकल्स, एक तो हमें डायरेक्टली ये पता चल गया, बट अभी भी हम उसको कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं, काउंट नहीं कर सकते, एक्चुअली में देख नहीं सकते, क्योंकि हमें मोल ही नहीं पता। मोल मेजर कैसे करूंगा मैं, मुझे लैब में जाना पड़ेगा, और लैब में मोल का कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंट नहीं है। सो व्हाट वी डू इज, हमारे पास इंस्ट्रूमेंट किस चीज़ का है, हमारे पास इंस्ट्रूमेंट है मैथ्स का। सो वी टेक एम आर, आई मीन लाइक जितना भी एम आर है ना, डजंट मैटर कौन सी चीज़ है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड है 44, वाटर है 18, अमोनिया है 17, हाइड्रोजन है 2, H2SO4 है 98, आपको याद नहीं करना ये सारे, बट जितना भी उसका एम आर है ना, दैट इज द नंबर दैट वी आर गोइंग टू गो विद, एंड वी विल टेक दैट मेनी ग्राम्स। ओके, वी टेक दैट मेनी ग्राम्स एंड यूर गुड टू गो, वी टेक दैट, और हमारे पास मोल आ गया। ठीक है, होल्ड ऑन, अ कपल ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स आर आस्किंग लिंक क्या है, लेट मी शेयर द लिंक विद देम। Okay. All right. So let's see. Hope to join in. Miss ना हो जाए किसी का. Yeah. So MR, we have MR, which is basically the number that is mass of anything compared with 1/12 of carbon 12. That's the definition of MR. 2 मार्क की definition भी आ सकती है. Okay. So we have that and we take that many grams. तो जितना भी MR है उतने grams ले लिए, और वो तो हम आसानी से कर सकते हैं ना. We have balance in the lab. We can work with that. And lastly, we have volume, और volume के लिए we use 24 dm cube as our standard value. 24 dm cube का मतलब है that 1 mole of any gas will have 24 dm cube at room temperature and pressure. That is very important to know कि room temperature and pressure है, और उस पे होना चाहिए उसको. If it is some other volume, some other temperature, then of course gases expand at higher temperature, gases compress at greater pressure. तो वो प्रेशर से वॉल्यूम, टेम्परेचर से वॉल्यूम को फ़र्क पड़ता है. बट इन आवर सिलेबस ओ लेवल्स और IGCSE वी जस्ट स्टिक विद 24 dm cube एंड रूम टेम्परेचर एंड प्रेशर. कोई और टेम्परेचर, कोई और प्रेशर हम कैलकुलेट नहीं करते. ई लेवल्स में हम करते हैं, बट अभी के लिए वी डोंट नीड टू वरी अबाउट इट. ओके, सो दैट्स द की, दैट्स हाउ यू कन्वर्ट. 1 मोल है तो इट विल हैव 6.02 into 10 power 23 पार्टिकल्स, क्लियर. MR ग्राम्स, क्लियर. 24 dm cube, वॉल्यूम. जो भी चीज़ आपने मेजर करनी, वट एवर एग्जामिनर वॉन्ट्स यू टू मेजर, यूज दीज की वर्ड्स. यू हैव दीज की वैल्यूज, यही यूज होंगी एवरी सिंगल टाइम. यू कैन यूज रेशियो मेथड. आप कहते हो मुझे फॉर्मूला चाहिए, कोई मसला नहीं है. आपने यहाँ से 1 मोल को देख लिया ना, हर चीज़ को उतने 1 मोल से डिवाइड कर दो. सो इफ आई वॉन्ट टू नो नंबर ऑफ मोल्स ऑफ सम गिवन मैस, ठीक है, मेरे पास नंबर ऑफ मोल्स हैं, उधर मैस है, तो मैं इसको डिवाइड बाय 1 मोल इधर कर देता हूँ और इधर MR कर देता हूँ. क्यों? मुझे पता है 1 मोल इज MR. सो देयर यू गो, मेरा फॉर्मूला बन गया दैट नंबर ऑफ मोल्स इज मैस ओवर MR. आप कहते नहीं, मुझे वॉल्यूम को देखना. सो नो प्रॉब्लम. क्या वॉल्यूम ऑफ अ गैस, रिमेंबर इट्स वॉल्यूम ऑफ गैस, वो सोल्यूशन की वॉल्यूम नहीं हो रही, दिस इज गैस वॉल्यूम. ओके, सो गैस वॉल्यूम डिवाइड बाय 24. अगेन व्हाई? बिकॉज नंबर ऑफ मोल्स इज गोइंग टू टेल यू अबाउट गैस वॉल्यूम एंड 1 मोल इज 24 dm cube. आप कहते हो मुझे पार्टिकल्स को कैलकुलेट करना है, मुझे पार्टिकल्स पता है, आई वांट टू नो मोल्स ऑफ दैट. सो जितने भी आपके पास पार्टिकल्स होंगे, डिवाइड दैट बाय एवोगाड्रोस नंबर 6.02 into 10 power 23, एंड देयर यू गो, दैट इज द नंबर ऑफ मोल्स दैट यू हैव. बेसिकली मोल्स इज यूनिट. मोल में आप उसको डिवाइड करते जाते हो और आप उसको इजीली वर्कआउट कर रहे हो. इसकी एक बड़ी सिंपल सी एग्जांपल देते हैं डजन की, कि 12 का एक डजन होता है, 12 इज अ डजन, राइट. सो इफ यू हैव 100, you just divide it by 12 and you have 12 groups of 12 and that is how many dozens you have, right? So that's what it is. So ये तो होगी बेसिक बातें. हाउ डू वी सॉल्व एग्जाम क्वेश्चंस. एग्जाम क्वेश्चन में इसके अलावा 2 और कॉन्सेप्ट आएंगे. वन कॉन्सेप्ट इज प्योरिटी एंड सेकेंड कॉन्सेप्ट इज यील्ड. सो प्योरिटी ऑन वन साइड, यील्ड ऑन द अदर साइड. अच्छा, अब प्योरिटी का क्या कॉन्सेप्ट है? Purity limits how many particles you have. If you are getting 2 grams, does not mean you have 2 gram as the given mass. If it is 2 grams which is only 30% pure, then you don't have, जो ये mass है ना, इसकी जगह आप 2 grams नहीं लिख सकते, because you have 2 grams as the total mass impure चीज़ का. You first figure out कि वो impure कितना है और उसका mass यहाँ पे आएगा formula के अंदर. So purity you have to resolve before you apply the moles का formula, and yield works at the end. सो यील्ड आपकी आती है बिल्कुल आखिर में, जो भी आपका आंसर आएगा उसकी यील्ड होगी और आप उस यील्ड को देखेंगे कि अच्छा कितने परसेंट है. अगर आपका आंसर आता है 20 ग्राम्स तो और यील्ड है 80%, सो दैट मीन्स योर एक्चुअल वैल्यू इज़ नॉट 20 ग्राम्स, योर कैलकुलेटेड वैल्यू इज़ 20 ग्राम्स. योर एक्चुअल वैल्यू इज़ गोइंग टू बी 80% ऑफ दैट विच इज़ वॉट 16. सो 16 ग्राम्स आपका एक्चुअल आंसर होगा. सो प्योरिटी कम्स बिफोर द मोल कैलकुलेशन, yield comes after the mole calculation. So ये दो चीज़ें combined with mole formulas or unitary method, that's the concept of moles. लेकिन समझ तो आ गया होगा, नहीं आया पूछ लें. But the thing is, how do we do it in the lab? In the exam. क्योंकि एग्जाम में तो वो क्वेश्चंस इस तरह से टेढ़े मेढ़े से बना के देगा, हमने कैसे उनको सॉल्व करना है. सो हमने सिंपल एक चीज़ ज़हन में रखनी है, प्योरिटी फर्स्ट, मोल कैलकुलेशन लेटर, यील्ड आफ्टर दैट. प्योरिटी, मोल कैलकुलेशन, यील्ड, ये हमेशा दिस ऑर्डर विल वर्क. सेकेंडली, मोल कैलकुलेशन कैसे होती है? मोल कैलकुलेशन एक तो है एक चीज़ की, व्हेन यू हैव जस्ट वन सब्सटेंस एंड यूर कैलकुलेटिंग मोल्स ऑफ दैट. सो आपके पास ये सारा मेथड है, मास ओवर एमआर, वॉल्यूम ओवर 24, पार्टिकल्स ओवर 6.02, विच इज एवोगाड्रोस नंबर. बट stoichiometry is not about one particle. Stoichiometry is about two different substances. हमें एक के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन गिवन होती है, एक की इंफॉर्मेशन हमें कैलकुलेट करनी होती है. सो पे अटेंशन अगेन, यू हैव इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट वन सब्सटेंस, आपको उसका मास गिवन होगा, वॉल्यूम गिवन होगी, पार्टिकल्स गिवन होंगे, कुछ पता होगा उसका आपको. एंड यू हैव द सेकेंड सब्सटेंस, उस सेकेंड के लिए आपने कैलकुलेट करना है. सो टू कैलकुलेट दैट you need to figure out using these volumes. So every time you have a stoichiometry problem, you will have two solutions, two substances, two compounds, two elements, two substances basically. You have information of the first, you need information of the second, and you do stoichiometry in there. That is the whole concept and the method for moles. Let's get to questions. Okay? Let's do them. So here I have questions from last few years, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve them, and I've taken most of these questions from O levels, but of course IGCSE के भी कुछ questions हैं. If you have specific problems that you want to solve, तो मुझे WhatsApp कर दें. You can WhatsApp them during the session और मैं यहाँ पे उसको solve भी कर दूँगा. So let's get started. So this is paper 2, 2018 to 2021. सारे questions उसके यहाँ पर I've selected them for moles and we are going to solve them. ठीक है? So of course stoichiometry, moles, वो सारे का सारा यहाँ पे we will use it. Okay, so let's get started. What is it? Hold on, I need a calculator for this. You also need to make sure you have calculators, you have periodic table. आपके पास वो होना चाहिए. Take it out if you don't have it right now. I might have it here. Some students ask कि कौन से कैलकुलेटर ले जा सकते हैं. You can take the calculators that you use for math. You can take the calculators that are not programmable. Those are acceptable in the exam. And of course, the ones that have GPS or that can communicate with the outside world, you can't use them. So just use the calculators that are pretty simple, the scientific calculators that you use. Okay, so let's get started. First question, calculate the maximum volume of hydrogen formed when 1.68 grams of magnesium. Wait a minute. This is a stoichiometry problem. क्यों? They gave us information about one thing. They gave us information about mass of magnesium. This is given to us. And they asked about volume of hydrogen. The moment you see that, that's stoichiometry. Stoichiometry का method क्या है? Stoichiometry का method है, एक की information given है, एक की information चाहिए. You start by finding moles of the first, then moles of the second, answer. 3 steps. every stoichiometry problem 3 steps. कैसे? moles of the first, जिसकी भी information given है उसकी moles. moles of the second कैसे निकालेंगे? ratio method. हमेशा use the equation ratio method. Number 3, answer, जो भी answer आपको चाहिए formula से आ सकता है. So let me solve this. Now he's saying magnesium reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid. This word excess is important. Excess means ignore it. Excess का मतलब है इस चीज़ के होने से कम होने से ज़्यादा होने से फ़र्क नहीं पड़ रहा है, because you already have more than you need. So let me write the equation for this. You have magnesium reacting with HCl. Of course you'll need to know how to make an equation. For those of you जिनको equation नहीं आती है, so just remember one thing. Reactivity series याद कर लें. Hydrogen is less reactive than magnesium, so magnesium is definitely going to displace it. ठीक है? So displacement principle at work. Magnesium will come displace that. Magnesium chloride is made. Again, अब यहाँ पे एक mistake क्या हो सकती है? What if you don't write MgCl2? What if you write MgCl? So that is one mistake. You will lose more mark. उसके बाद आपकी कैलकुलेशन अगर ठीक है, you will get the marks. क्योंकि आपने गलती तो एक की है ना. You will be penalized for just one mistake. Not कि आपका सारा क्वेश्चन गलत हो जाएगा. Now how do you write the formula? Know that magnesium is in group 2, chlorine is in group 7. It will have a charge -1, magnesium +2, cross multiply, ratio flip. If you need help, go to the video on equations and formulas. और उसमें I've explained it in detail कि कैसे formula बनाते हैं, and we did a lot of problems in there. So magnesium chloride and hydrogen gas. There you go. Now every time you make an equation, balance it. Balance किए बगैर तो equation देनी नहीं है, गुनाह है, ठीक है? So there you go. Yep, हो गया. Now the two things that they're asking us about, कौन सी हैं वो चीज़ें? Magnesium, that's one, and volume of hydrogen, so that's the second. So it's pretty straightforward problem because they have given us about information about magnesium. They're asking about information of hydrogen. So method क्या है? I've told you. Stoichiometry is when you have information about one thing, you're asked about the second thing. And how do you solve it? Moles of the first, moles of the second, answer. 3 steps every single time. You can't go wrong with that. So let's get started. Moles of the first. Magnesium है ना, magnesium के moles निकालते हैं. You have 1.68 grams, so this time I'm using the formulas. So number of moles is mass over mR. I don't have mR here. This is magnesium, so it will be AR. Okay, but whether you write mR or AR, you won't lose marks. But exam में formula लिख लेना. If you write the formula, it really helps. Okay. Now we have mass over mR. So mass is 1.68. I'll share the worksheet with you in a bit. And I divided by 24. Why 24? Because magnesium's AR is 24. Okay, so that's it. I think I'll be 0.07. Let me confirm. Yeah, 0.07. So there you go. That is the number of moles of magnesium that I have. So magnesium's moles I have. One step done. Second step. Moles of the second. I have hydrogen gas. Let me figure out the moles. I already have that. 1 mole of magnesium makes 1 mole of hydrogen. So 0.07 will obviously make 0.07. अगर आपको ये confirm नहीं हो रहा for some reason, x लिख दें, cross multiply कर लें, you'll get x equal to 0.07. So you have 0.07 as the moles of hydrogen gas. Now you need to find, first was number of moles of the first thing, moles of the second thing, answer. So अब हम answer निकालेंगे. Answer क्या है? Volume of hydrogen. That is what they asked us. And that is why I underlined it in the beginning. जब भी आपने question देखना है, आपने उसको underline करना है. ठीक है, उन चीज़ों को जो भी आपको चाहिए हैं और जो भी आपको given है. So now you have volume is number of moles 0.07 times 24, so that is going to be 1.68 again. And yep, there you go, 1.68 dm cube. And that is the answer to this. Now of course you don't really need to always use formulas. You can solve this using ratio method, and people who studied with me, जिन्होंने पूरा कोर्स किया था in the O levels का जो हमारा syllabus वाला सेशन था, I taught in detail कि हम ratio method कैसे करते हैं. Also in the rapid revision जो हमारा last session था on moles, you can check the recording in there. उसमें we talked about in detail कि conversion कैसे करते हैं. So I'm going to go over that again. Hopefully आपको उसमें समझ आ जाएगी अगर कोई issue होगा. Hold on, let me just scan this. Okay, so here's how we go. The method is, आपको दो चीज़ों के बारे में पूछा है ना, उन दोनों चीज़ों को कॉपी कर लो. सो मैग्नीशियम वहाँ से, हाइड्रोजन यहाँ से. ओके, मैग्नीशियम का आपको मास गिवन है, हाइड्रोजन की आपको वॉल्यूम मांग रहा है. ओके, फेयर इनफ. नाउ पे अटेंशन. Mass of 1 mole is what we start with. 1 mole magnesium, 24 grams. Okay. 1 mole hydrogen, what's the volume? 24 dm cube. That I know, हमें याद है. 1 mole is mr grams and 24 dm cube for volume. What do I have? I have 1.68 grams. My answer will be x. Cross multiply and you will get 1.68 as your answer. So you see कितना छोटा सा method है and it works. It works every single time. I'm so proud of it. I was in grade 10 when I made this. So yeah, it's fun to flex that once in a while. Okay, so I just need to send you the worksheet. Just a minute. Here you go. So you can access the worksheet here. I've shared the link with you in the chat here also. There you go. Also, people who are just joining in on YouTube and are not part of the rapid revision group, feel free to join the group. You can get the link from your friends, or you can obviously text me and I will share the link with you. Feel free to join the group, and you're more than welcome to share your questions, discuss any problems that you're feeling, or even if you need some hostler, we are all here for you, and we have a really good thing going on. Assalamu alaikum Adika. Okay, so what was this method? We will see many more repetition of this. Method is simple. Take the two things that you're talking about, equations, उनको copy कर लें. Write the standard values 1 mole के लिए जो कुछ है वो वहाँ पे लिख दें. उसके बाद जो आपको information है use that. अभी आपको देखने से बहुत अजीब लग रहा होगा, but it works, and I will show you different problems for it कि उनको कैसे करना. Alright, let's move on to the second question in here. Now this question is about empirical formula, and empirical formula is important. That's a subtopic of stoichiometry and all that. So इस पे 2 या 3 मार्क का हर दफ़ा आता है. ठीक है? Moise, I don't understand what your question is. Can you elaborate? Okay, so a hydrocarbon contains 88.9% carbon. So obviously it's a hydrocarbon, right? They haven't told us what the other thing is, but it's a hydrocarbon, so it must be hydrogen. So carbon, hydrogen, this is 88.9. That is, they haven't told us. So 100 minus 88.9, 11.1 if I'm not wrong. Always good to confirm. Yeah, 11.1. And now I'm assuming the basic assumption behind this is that this is 100 grams, but you don't need to put that in there. So now divide by 12 and divide by 1. People who are joining us now, just start the video from the very beginning, and you will understand moles का concept क्या है और कैसे उनको solve करना है. Because अभी फौरन आप join करेंगे, so it's possible that you get confused कि कहाँ से हो रहा है, because many of us, obviously, we are all at different stages of understanding this. Okay, Moise, I hope that helps. Now I'm going to divide this 88.9 divided by 12, so that gives me 7.408. Now notice one thing, I did not round it off because I don't want to. I will round off my final answer. Every time I solve a question on moles, round off your final answer. बीच का answer उसको आप round off मत कीजिएगा. And this is 11.1. So now we divide by the smaller number, 7.408 यहाँ पे है. We divide this 7.408 here. And that gives me 1 ratio, what is 11.1 divided by answer? That is 1.5. Now don't round it off. Make it a whole number. So how do you make it a whole number? Double it. So if you double this thing, multiply this by 2, I get 2 ratio 3. Okay? So there you go, C2H3, and that's my empirical formula. There you go. That is how you find the empirical formula of anything. Now, if you want to find molecular formula, an examiner sometimes asks you, okay, what more information do you need for this? You need molecular mass. If you need MR, and if you have MR, with empirical formula, you will be able to figure out कि वो चीज़ उसका actual molecular formula क्या है, ठीक है? So you will be able to do that. Again, I announced the class timings in rapid revision group, and this week I plan on being online at 7 p.m. every day. Probably Thursday को थोड़ा सा late हो जाएगा, but 7 p.m. hopefully every day from now. Okay, moving on. dilute sulfuric acid reacts with sodium hydroxide. Now this is again, let's see, ये किसका question है? This is stoichiometry again. Why? Because they have given us information about one thing and they are asking about the information of the other. But it gets further than that. ये question है, this is a question. Why did I multiply this by 2? Because I wanted to make it a whole number. जिसको होल नंबर बनाना होता है उसको मल्टीप्लाई बाय सम नंबर दैट मेक्स इट लाइक 1.5 का डबल 3 है तो मैंने होल नंबर बना दिया उसको. अगर ये कुछ और होता 0.75 होता तो उसको होल नंबर बनाने के लिए मुझे किसी और नंबर से मल्टीप्लाई करना पड़ता, प्रॉब्ली 4. सो यू जस्ट पिक एंड चूज के कौन से नंबर स्मॉलेस्ट नंबर जिससे आप मल्टीप्लाई करके इसको होल नंबर बना सकते हैं. ओके, नाउ दिस क्वेश्चन इज अबाउट फाइंडिंग द लिमिटिंग रिएक्टेंट. Now, limiting reactant is also another important concept in moles. Limiting reactant का concept क्या है? The concept is that if you have more than you need, that is in excess. If you have less than you need, that is limiting. Basically, that thing will run out and reaction will stop. That's what limiting reactant is. That thing will run out and the reaction will stop. Okay. Iman, for empirical formula, you can, I don't understand what rules you're talking about. The method is always consistent. First, you take whatever percentage or the mass you have divided by AR, divide by the smallest value to get a ratio, and then multiply by a whole number. Make it a whole number, and that's how you get empirical formula every single time. Acha, so I was at limiting reactant. How do you calculate limiting reactant? You have to show that this thing is less than what you need. आपको रिएक्शन करने के लिए जितना चाहिए you have less than what you need, which means कि वो चीज़ लिमिटिंग रिएक्शन है. Similarly, if you can show that something is more than what you need, that is in excess. तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि आपने किसी, and this is a very important point, pay attention, one information, आपको शुरू में दो चीज़ों की information given होगी. How do you know कि limiting reactant का question है? दो reactants हैं, दोनों की information given है. Again, दो reactants हैं, दोनों की information given है. That shows it's a limiting reactant question. आपने किसी एक से start करना है, दूसरे को calculate करना है. Stoichiometry अभी हमने देखी. एक से start करना है, दूसरे से calculate करना है. दूसरे को अभी तक हाथ नहीं लगाना. You don't use the values for the other one. First, you identify that I have two reactants, I have information of both, this must be limiting reactant. Then you take information about one, use stoichiometry to calculate the other. Do not use the information of the other until the end. और end पे आप compare करेंगे. Do I have more than what I need or do I have less than what I need? If you have more, this is in excess. If you have less, it's limiting. अब सुनने में थोड़ा सा अजीब लग रहा होगा, करेंगे तो समझ आ जाएगी. So let's do it. Alright, so a student adds 0.76 grams of solid sodium hydroxide. So sodium hydroxide, this thing, I already have 0.76 grams of this. Okay. To 45 cm cube of 0.2 dm cube sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid, this thing, I already have information about this. तो मुझे दोनों की information given है. Clearly limiting reactant question. Show by calculation that sodium hydroxide is in excess. What am I going to do? And you going to start with one, use stoichiometry to calculate the other. दूसरे को मैं हाथ नहीं लगाऊंगा. So I'm going to start with sulfuric acid. Now it doesn't matter what you start with. You can start with sodium hydroxide, you can start with sulfuric acid. एक से शुरू करना है, दूसरे पे end करना है. That's it. So I'm going to start with sulfuric acid. Stoichiometry का method क्या था? Moles of the first, moles of the second, answer. Moles of the first, moles of the second, answer. Every single time. So I'm going to start with moles of sulfuric acid. So moles of sulfuric acid. Notice मैंने 0.76 को हाथ भी नहीं लगाया. So I'm going to start with that. 45 cm cube is 45 divided by 1000 multiply by 0.2 moles. So that is going to be 0.09. I'm not sure. Let's check. 0.009. Okay. So that's the number of moles of sulfuric acid. I will use it to calculate moles of sodium hydroxide. कैसे? 1 mole gives me 2. I'm getting these values from the equation. So 0.009. Now यहाँ पर students mistake क्या करते हैं कि गलत जगह पे value लिख देते हैं. Make sure that this is 1 for sulfuric acid, this is moles of sulfuric acid, you write it below 1. You don't write it below 2 क्योंकि वहाँ पे फिर गलती हो जाएगी. So you have to be sure of what information I have and where does it belong. and this is x, cross multiply, x is going to be 0.018. That means moles of sodium hydroxide I need is 0.018. Okay, fair enough. Now I need my answer, the mass. So mass is going to be number of moles in multiplied by mr. So mr of sodium hydroxide, I think that will be 23, 16, 7, 1, I think 40. So 0.018 times 40. Always confirm with your calculator. ठीक है, trust yourself. Sure, आप इतने अरसे से कर रहे हो, आपका आंसर ठीक हो सकता है, but still verify. Okay. In fact, that goes for people as well. Trust them, but verify. Okay, so 40 times 0.018 and 0.72. 0.72 grams is what I need. What I need for the reaction. How much do I have? 0.76. More than what I need. So 0.76. अब यहाँ पे आप सेंटेंस लिखें, ऐसे लिखें, मैथ्स में इनइक्वालिटी लिख दें, आपकी मर्जी है. So 0.76 is greater than 0.72. So sodium hydroxide in excess. There you go. Okay, so you can write an inequality, you can write an essay, लिख दें उसको, बस इंग्लिश में लिखना, उर्दू में ना लिखना, and examiner would know that you have done it right. There you go. So again, let me reiterate what my method was. First hint, I had two reactants, they gave me information about them. That shows limiting reactant का question. कोई एक तो limiting reactant होगा अगर दोनों की information की बना. Number two, I start with information about the one, use stoichiometry to find information about the other. At the end, compare it what I have. मैंने किसी एक के इन्फॉर्मेशन से स्टार्ट करना है, दूसरे पे एंड करना है, तब तक दूसरे की इन्फॉर्मेशन को यूज़ नहीं करना है. मैंने 0.76 को हाथ भी नहीं लगाया. I ignored it throughout the question until the very end when I compared it with what I have. And once I have that, that's my answer. That's how I know कि इसको कैसे करना है. Alright? So हर क्वेश्चन की मैंने आपको शुरू में बताया था, we need to have a strategy. We need to identify कि वो क्वेश्चन क्या है और उसको करना कैसे. Let's get started with the next question. ये बहुत आसान है. This one's actually really easy. This is percentage by mass. Again, something that is a pretty free question. So this is easy. Let's do it. They're asking us calculate percentage by mass of phosphorus in this compound. ठीक है. I have 4 phosphorus. I have 4 phosphorus, 10 oxygen. So I'll just plug in the values. I think phosphorus is 31. Let me confirm. So phosphorus, yeah, it is 31. So I'll just take that. So 4 times 31 divided by 4 times 31 plus 10 times 16. And yeah, I'll just plug all of that in the calculator. You don't need to give information कि अच्छा इसमें actual numbers क्या हैं. यहाँ तक छोड़ के direct answer पे चले जाएं, that's perfectly fine. कोई मसला नहीं है. Examiner will not take away a mark. वैसे भी 2 mark का question है. You will get the marks that you're looking for. Vadika's question is that is limiting reactant a part of IGCSE syllabus? If you're going for core, then it's not. Core syllabus, most students in Pakistan don't go for that. But if you're not from Pakistan or if your center is not in Pakistan, then it is possible that you're going for core syllabus. Core syllabus mein, it is not required, okay? But for extended syllabus like the syllabus that we use in HSN or most schools in Pakistan, then you will definitely need to know about limiting reactant even if you're doing IGCSE. So now this is my relative mass. I multiplied that by 100% to find my percentage, and that's going to be 31 times 4 divided by 31 times 4 plus 10 times 16. That is 43.7%. And yeah, 43.7%, that's my answer. Okay, so yeah, if you're extended, you will need to know the value. Okay, moving on. I think this is a question from, yeah, this is 2019. हम 2020 और 2021 के question देख चुके हैं. There will be some question that I missed. Repeating होंगे जैसे होंगे इसलिए. Alright, let's see this. Calculate the maximum mass of calcium carbonate. Okay, so mass of calcium carbonate, minimum mass of calcium carbonate. Again, you have paid for the paper, right? उस पे underline किया करें, उस पे highlight किया करें, उस पे लिखा करें. Alright? So that you know what you're doing and examiner knows what you're doing. So write on that, whether it's MCQs, whether it's ATP, whether it's this one, write on that. Feel free to do it. Okay, but obviously use the space properly. कुछ सोच समझ के ज़ाया नहीं करनी है space. Alright, needed to produce 16.8 cm cube. This is the volume given already of carbon dioxide at room temperature pressure. Okay, so I need to know the equation. So let me make the equation. Calcium carbonate breaks down, gives me calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Again, on an unrelated note, your syllabus requires that you know the breakdown of nitrates and carbonates. Okay, so you need to know what happens when heat affects nitrates. Nitrates में कौन कौन से हो सकते हैं? You need to know about group 1, you need to know about group 2. So nitrates का इफेक्ट क्या है, carbonates का इफेक्ट क्या है, हाइड्रोक्साइड पे इफेक्ट क्या है, ये तीन है जिनका इफेक्ट आपको आना चाहिए. एंड आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन दैट इन अनदर वीडियो, बट अगर फिर भी किसी को इशू है सो फील फ्री टू टेक्स्ट मी एंड आई विल हेल्प यू आउट. ओके, नाउ हाउ डू आई नो दिस इज स्टोइकियोमेट्री? आई नीड इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट वन, आई हैव इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट द अदर. आई नो कि इसकी वॉल्यूम 16.8 है, मुझे ये पता है, और मुझे इसका मास चाहिए. सो दिस शोज दैट दिस इज stoichiometry. Second, why are they saying minimum? Because they want us to have 100% efficiency. अगर 100% efficiency होगी मिनिमम चीज़ से काम हो जाएगा. अगर efficiency कम होगी तो ज़्यादा चीज़ें ऐड करनी पड़ेंगी. Okay? I'm sorry, what effects are you talking about? Okay, so let's see how to solve this. Again, आपको मैंने stoichiometry का method बताया. Moles of the first, moles of the second, answer. Moles of the first, I start with carbon dioxide. Number of moles is volume divided by 24. But volume dm cube में होना चाहिए. This is in cm cube. So I'll divide it by 24,000. Okay, so moles over, moles is 16.8 divided by 24,000. So that is 7 into 10 power minus 4. You can write in standard forms, that's perfectly fine. Okay. And it's a topic on its own. नाइट्रेट्स, हाइड्रोक्साइड्स एंड कार्बोनेट्स, इन तीनों पे हीट का जो इम्पैक्ट होता है फॉर ग्रुप 1, ग्रुप 2, यू नीड टू नो दैट. उसका बेसिकली इफ़ यू वांट टू गूगल इट, जस्ट गूगल थर्मल डिकम्पोजिशन ऑफ नाइट्रेट्स, कार्बोनेट्स, हाइड्रोक्साइड्स. आपको उसके ऊपर नोट्स वगैरह सब कुछ मिल जाएगा. आई हैव ऑल्सो अपलोडेड नोट्स इन ahmedbokhari.com. यू कैन जस्ट गो इन देयर. You can get it for chemistry, physics, maths, bio, जो भी different subjects in sciences के. I primarily deal with sciences, तो वो उस पर लिखे हुए रहते हैं. Okay, so where were we? Moles of the first, we calculated it. Moles of the second, 1-to-1 ratio है. So it will be 1-to-1. So 7 into 10 power minus 4 इसका है तो उसका भी इतना ही होगा. So that is the number of moles of calcium carbonate. Now I need to know the mass. Mass का formula क्या है? Number of mole is mass over mr. That means mass is mr multiplied by number of moles. Moles I have 7 into 10 power minus 4. Mass is 100. Why 100? Because mr of calcium carbonate I already know is 100. आपको अगर नहीं याद, no problem, calculate कर लें. Calcium is 40, carbon is 12, oxygen is 16 times 3. There you go. So yeah, I'm going to get this answer multiplied by 100, and that is 0.07 grams. That's how much calcium carbonate I need to get my answer. Okay, fair enough. What about the other method? Other method क्या था? Copy the two things that you have. So I have calcium carbonate, I have carbon dioxide. I copy them from the equation. लिख लिया. Now write the value for 1 mole. So for 1 mole, calcium carbonate has 100 grams as mass, and this has 24,000 as the volume. I can write 24 dm cube. मेरी मर्जी है. How much volume do I have? अब आपने next line में information लिखनी है that you have been given. I know what the mass is, I have to find that, and this is 16.8, and now I cross multiply. When I cross multiply, 16.8 multiplied by 100 divided by 24,000, that gives me 0.07 as my answer, and there you go, we are done with it. Okay, so yeah, that's how you solve this. Okay, next question. Hydrated means that it has water of crystallization. Sodium iodate 5, why 5? That shows that iodide has an oxidation state of 5. That's all it shows. Has the formula NaIO3X-H2O. So we don't know how much water crystallization is in there, but it is there because it's hydrated. The relative molecular formula mass is 288. Why is it saying relative formula mass? Because this is ionic compound. If it was covalent, they would say relative molecular mass. Okay, this is ionic, so relative formula mass. But इसको हम लिखते हैं MR की. Calculate the value of x. Really easy question. All I need to do is calculate that 288, that is the MR, and it is equal to whatever is in there. So I have 1 sodium, 1 iodide, 3 oxygen, x water. Water का मैं H2O पूरा ही ले रहा हूँ क्योंकि मुझे water का MR पता है 18 होता है. अगर आपको वो याद नहीं है, write 2H and 1 oxygen, that's also fine. कोई गलती नहीं है उसमें. Now I'll plug in the values. 288 equals to 23 for sodium, iodine, I think 127, let me confirm. Yeah, 127. 127, 3 oxygen, 3 times 16, okay, and this is 18 times x. So yeah, this is a fairly simple equation. 23 plus 127 is 150, 150 plus 198, 288 minus 198, 90. 90 divided by 18, 5. So 90 even 18x, x equals to 5. That means it has 5 water molecules joined with every formula unit sodium iodate. There you go. हो गया. Okay, so yeah, pretty simple question. Moving on. I'm sorry I'm going a little fast because we need to finish these questions and I want you to get acquainted to all different kind of questions that are going to be there. Okay, let's see what this is about. Okay, just by reading it, how do you know this is limiting reactant? Does anybody, can anybody guess? Just read the question और देखते साथ आपको पता चल जाना चाहिए that this is limiting reactant. कैसे पता चलेगा? Yep, we have two reactants और दोनों की information given है. That is how we know that this is limiting reactant. Very good. So let's get started with this. We have butanoic acid. We have the information of that. We have sodium carbonate. We have the information of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the information of one and I'm going to get the information of the other. Method क्या है? You start with one, moles of the first, moles of the second, answer, and then compare. That's how you find limiting reactant. Okay, so I'm going to start this time. I'm going to start with butanoic acid. पिछली दफा हमने solution से किया था ना, अब हम butanoic acid से करेंगे. So I have 5.28 grams. Moles देख लेते हैं. Number of moles is going to be 5.28 divided by MR. अब MR calculate कर लेते हैं. So I have 4 carbons, so 4 times 12, 8 hydrogen, so 8 times 1, plus 2 oxygen, so that's 16 times 2. I'm getting 88. Correct me if you think that value is wrong. Okay, so that's the number of moles I have. So जो भी आंसर है मैं उसको लिख रहा हूँ. ज़्यादा डेसिमल प्लेसेस होते तो मैं वो भी कैलकुलेटर में एटलीस्ट रहने देता. Okay, now I will use this to find moles of the other. So mole ratio is 2 to 1. So 0.06 will be to x. X is going to be 0.03. That is the moles of sodium carbonate that I need. Okay, and how many moles do I have? क्योंकि मुझे यहाँ पे mass तो निकालना नहीं है. It's a solution. So how many moles do I have? Now let me calculate that. Number of moles is 56 over 1000 times 0.5. Okay, so 0.028. हाँ ये 0.028. That's the number of moles that I have. This is the moles I need. This is greater than 0.028. You have less than you need. Okay, so this shows that sodium carbonate is limiting, which means the other thing is in excess. ठीक है, हमें पता लग गया. अगर आपने ये नहीं करना, you want to use a different technique, sure, no problem. That's actually no problem. हम उसको भी कर सकते हैं. Let's start with sodium carbonate and let's move our way to figure out कि उसका mass कितना है. Let's do that. So I'll start with sodium carbonate. Again, moles of the first, moles of the second, answer, and then compare. So moles of the first 0.5 times 56 over 1000 हमने अभी कैलकुलेट किया था, that was 0.028. Okay, that's the moles of the sodium carbonate. I will use that to find moles of the other thing. So 2 moles to 1, so 0.028 to x. Again, गलती नहीं करनी है, write the value where it belongs. Now you cross multiply, I get x equals to 0.056. That's the moles of butanoic acid. What is the mass? So mass is going to be moles multiplied by mr, 0.056 multiplied by 88. I'll calculate that. That is 4.928 or 4.93 grams. This is how much you need. Calculations हमेशा you get how much you need. This is less than what you have. You have more than you need, or you need less than you have. So इसका मतलब क्या है? It is an excess. Okay, so it doesn't matter what you start with. You can get this right, and the examiner will give you marks. ये नहीं है कि उसने बोला है कि you have to show it is in excess, वो marks नहीं देगा if you show the other is in limiting. They will give you the marks because they understand, the students know what they're talking about. Okay. This is a question about yield. Let's see. Again, मैंने आपको शुरू में बोला था yield comes at the end, purity at the beginning. So let's keep the yield part till the end. Titanium is made by reducing TiCl4 using magnesium. Okay, displacement reaction हो रहा है. Okay. Calculate the mass of titanium made from 1000 grams of TiCl4. Again, stoichiometry. You have information about this. You need information about this. दो चीज़ें हैं, दोनों की information निकाल दी. Okay, so let's do it. And they're saying it's 90% yield, so I'll leave that out till the end. Okay, so I use my stoichiometry standard procedure. Moles of the first, moles of the second, answer. So moles of the first. I have 1000 grams. I'll divide that by its mr. Titanium, what is that? Titanium, देखना पड़ेगा. 48. That's the AR. So 1000 over 48. 48. So yeah, that's going to be 20.83333. So I'll just write it in a fraction, 125 over 6. Because that's easier. Approximate नहीं करना पड़ेगा, आंसर एग्जैक्ट आएगा. ठीक है, 125 over 6 लिख दिया. अच्छा, अगर आपके कैलकुलेटर ने आपको डेसिमल में दिया ना, राउंड इट ऑफ तो 20.83 लिख दो, लेकिन कैलकुलेटर से डिलीट नहीं करना है. कीप इट ऑन द कैलकुलेटर and use the answer button to actually get the answer later on. Okay, so this is the moles of TiCl4. Mole ratio is 1 to 1, so I will get, of course, the same moles. So x is going to be 125 over 6. That's the moles of titanium. Moles आ गए तो mass कैसे आएगा? You figure out by multiplying the moles by the AR, and that is 48. So that I think will be, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. What did I do? I'm so sorry. I divided by AR of titanium. मुझे titanium chloride के AR से करना था. Guess we all make mistakes. Okay, so I'll divide 1000 by the MR of TiCl4. I have 35.5 times 4 plus 48. That is the actual answer, 190. So 1000 divided by that is 5.26. Again, approximated value है, तो मैं उसको ऐसे ही रख दूंगा, कैलकुलेटर पे चेंज नहीं करूँगा. 1:1, so I'm going to get 5.26 of that. Alhamdulillah, so sorry. Okay, so 5.26 there. Multiply that by 48 and you get 253 grams as your answer. Still, I'm going to use this value in the calculator because we need percentage yield. So I have 90% yield. That means 253 actually में नहीं आएगा. It will be 90% of that. So actual number is going to be this multiplied by 0.9 because 90% is 0.9. Okay. So yeah, 227 is what I will get. और मुझे उसने बोला था 2 decimal places का. So this will be 230 grams. There you go. So ये मेरा 2 decimal places तक आंसर आ गया. ये उसने पूछा था. Okay. Maniha, do you understand this? If you don't, I will explain again. So what we did is that first we found moles of TaCl4, because then we had the mass of that thing. We used that to find moles. Then remember the method is moles of the first. We did that. Moles of the second. This is moles of the second. Okay. Mole ratio is 1:1 because titanium and titanium chloride की बात हो रही है. And that's how I know moles of titanium is also 5.26. अब moles of the second आ गया. Now I need my mass. So mass, the answer basically is 5.26 times 48 because titanium ka AR is 48. That's 253 grams. But there's a catch. It is 90% yield. 90% yield की वजह से 90% of 253 is my answer. Yes, Hassan, you're absolutely right. So yeah, because of that, I will get 230. So Wahab, Hassan, thank you so much. What would I do without students like you? So yeah, thank you so much. So we have 230 gram as my final answer. Okay. Again, really similar question. How about you attempt it? Try करें इसको solve करना, and of course then I'll solve it with you. Some students are texting me if they can join the rapid revision group. If you have any friends who you think need help, right now everybody needs help. So just add them to the group. Okay, I've shared the link here. This is the link to join the group. You can join the rapid revision group here. Okay, so it's a really good community, pretty helpful. There's another group on Facebook in case you guys want to use Facebook. But because everybody's on WhatsApp, Facebook पे बहुत कम लोग होते हैं, so that's why. Also, a big shout out to Fatima Ali, one of my students, and she just got into Harvard. And to be honest, I'm really happy, क्योंकि yeah, it was my dream कि कोई मेरा student भी Harvard में जाए, and कितनी जल्दी ये ख्वाब पूरा हो गया. I'm really happy. Yeah. So yeah, well done, Fatima. Okay, so let's do this question. Thank you. Okay, ammonium iodide is a white solid which decomposes when heated. Okay, we have the equation. Then calculate the volume of gas. So we have to calculate volume of gas. Now this question is interesting because we have two gases that are being made here. At room temperature pressure, formed when 2.9 gram of ammonium iodide is completely decomposed. अब इसको करने के लिए we have two methods. एक तो मेथड बड़ा सिंपल है. You calculate the volume of ammonia, then you calculate the volume of hydrogen iodide. Both are gases and you add them together. Right? You can do that. But there's another thing you can do. You can just use the mole ratio. Right now, what does it tell me? कोई भी gas हो, volume is 24, right? Volume उतनी रहती है ना? So I have 1 mole of this, 1 mole of this. How much total moles of hydrogen any gas do I have? I have total 2 moles of gas, right? So that's why I'm going to just use that. So instead of thinking of this as ammonium iodide making ammonia and then that making hydrogen iodide, I'm just going to think of it as ammonium iodide gives me 2 moles of gas. That's what I'm going to go with. So let's start this. So I have 2.9 grams of this. Method kya hai? Moles of one, moles of the second, answer. Moles of the first one, ammonium iodide. So moles is going to be 2.9 divided by the MR. Ammonium iodide ka MR hoga 17 for ammonia and then 1 plus 127. Again, nitrogen 14, 4 hydrogen 4 and 127 for that. 145 is what I am getting. I might be wrong. Agar galat hai to aap mujhe bata dein. And that is 0.02 moles of ammonium iodide. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that 1 mole of ammonium iodide produces 2 moles of gas. It doesn't matter what gas I'm talking about. It has 2 moles of gas. Or examiner ne bhi 2 moles of gas hi manga hai. So 0.02 will produce X. X is going to be 0.04 moles. That's the moles of gas that I have. Doesn't matter what gas. So the volume is going to be this multiplied by 24. So this multiplied by 24 and that is 0.96 dm cube. And there you go. So we don't always have to follow a certain method straightforward. आप टाइम बचा सकते हो और आप इस तरह से कर सकते हो. हाँ, अगर आपको लगता है कि नहीं माई assumption is wrong, मुझे डायरेक्ट चलना चाहिए तो चले, नो प्रॉब्लम. थोड़ा वक्त ही ज़्यादा लगेगा ना, 2 मिनट ऊपर लग जाएंगे, कोई मसला नहीं है. द इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग इज़ टू गेट द आंसर राइट. जल्दी करने के नंबर नहीं है, सही करने के नंबर हैं. So that's what we will get. An interesting thing about ammonium substances, ammonium ion बहुत interesting चीज़ है. Basically what happens is that ammonia adds to hydrogen ion and when you heat it or when you react it, it breaks off. So let's say I react ammonia with hydrogen chloride. So I have 1 hydrogen in hydrogen chloride, right? So it will make 1 ammonium with the chloride. I react ammonia with sulfuric acid. So it will make 2 ammonium because sulfuric acid has 2 hydrogen, so it will make 2 ammonium. So ammonium 2 हो जाएंगे और sulfate बन जाएगा. If I have 3, it will form 3. Okay? So just understand how ammonium ion works. यहाँ पर क्या हुआ था? यहाँ पर you had hydrogen iodide, which is if you dissolve it in water, hydroiodic acid. हाइड्रोआयोडिक एसिड है, हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड है, हाइड्रोब्रोमिक एसिड है, ग्रुप 7 से बन रहे हैं. इफ आई रिएक्ट विद अमोनिया तो क्या होगा? इट हैज 1 हाइड्रोजन, सो इट्स गोइंग टू मेक 1 अमोनियम. सो अमोनियम आयोडाइड इज व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू गेट. ओके, नाउ दिस इज व्हाट आई नीडेड टू write the answer and yeah, we have done it. Okay, so this is pretty much all the different kinds of questions that you get. Of course, इसमें percentage purity वाला question हमने अभी नहीं किया है. I will look it up and hopefully solve that. This worksheet keeps going on. This is 6 more pages of this worksheet. So I have already shared the link with you and you can attempt that. In fact, you should attempt that. Then we also need to do a few questions of ATP. So we will keep a session for that. Tomorrow we will also solve a couple of papers जो हमारे पास टाइम होगा. इंशाल्लाह I'll see you right after इफ्तारी around 7 tomorrow. Okay, so it's 7 Pakistan time if you are in a different country or different city. Like Karachi में थोड़ा सा different time है लाहौर से, so use that. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much and yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In fact, make your friends, make your family members, अम्मा को भी जाके आज कहेंगे subscribe करें. Okay, so all the best. See you tomorrow. Allah Hafiz.